Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality. While listening, you'll be exposed to inspiring, empowering, and unifying perspectives that I'm highly confident will yield stellar results in your life if you opt to try them on for size. Also, at optimistic.tv, we have officially begun releasing the first few episodes of our new late-night style, consciousness-elevating video variety talk show, Optimistic, which features live visionary art, soul share interviews, retreat guests here at the Mystic Manor, as well as live musical performances. I'm also super excited to announce that we are currently making plans to release the rest of Season 1 on my personal favorite online streaming service. So stay tuned to optimistic.tv to follow the unfolding development of this exciting Optimistic expansion, as we'll be posting more info and release dates there soon. And in the meantime, be sure to check out, of course, the first few episodes at optimistic.tv as well. All right, all you positive heads. On this week's Soul Share episode, I'm very excited to have Juliet Obodo here with me on the show. Juliet is a Master Hypnotherapist, NLP Practitioner, and trainer with a mission to help treat, heal, and transform racism, as well as to help facilitate individual transformations utilizing brain training techniques. Very excited to have you here, Juliet. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Brandon. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, the work that you do is definitely interesting. I NLP and understanding, the language and as I like to talk about spelling, we're casting spells with the words that we use. Abracadabra means I create as I speak. That's such a hot topic for me. And you're just, everything that you're doing is super interesting. And I look forward to diving in. Before we start, I always like to start with a very predictable opening question. And it is this. You're in an elevator. The woman next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" You got 10 floors to answer. What do you say?
My passion is to help people discover their untapped potential. What you think that you want now isn't really what you truly want. Most of the time, we're afraid to actually even say or think what we want to ourselves. During the rest of the elevator ride, I would help her discover what she truly wanted and to help her reach her true potential.
You might even have to hit the little red button to stop the elevator so that you have more time. Or fly into the cosmos on the Willy Wonka style elevator, as I like to reference. If you've ever seen Willy Wonka, where they just keep going and blast into the stratosphere, that works too. So if you would, give us a little bit of backstory. I always, like to know who I'm talking to and sort of whatever's relevant to lead you, to where you're at in your journey.
Yeah, if you asked me like 2 years ago, even if I would be here today and being introduced as a master hypnotherapist, I would look at you like, what? My Uber's here. I gotta go. But
I'm out.
bye. But it was, now that I look back on it, it was like it was meant to happen. I wanted to be a doctor nun when I was growing up, and then it shifted into psychologist. Then it shifted into scientific research. Then it shifted into software tech sales for years, and then finally I kept hitting a wall at my sales jobs because I would want to help people more than just like sell to them.
Right.
And finally I started my own business of helping startups get funding because I felt like it was a mix of being able to help people and then also something easy like, hey, I want to help you get money. People would love that, right? And
Yeah. It's not usually the most offensive thing that you can do to someone.
exactly. So that did well. And then I moved into more tech. So I had two businesses and I was making a lot of money and I kept putting off a lot of things until I made more money. And then I
Hmm.
finally, every time I hit that money goal, I wouldn't feel that freedom. I wouldn't feel
Right.
that happiness that I thought I would feel.
Right.
And then everything just started to look gray, like gloom and doom.
Mm.
I couldn't get out of that gray zone until one day I saw something about manifestation. I remember manifestation and law of attraction, the secret. And I kind of was using that intuitively to get my clients and to get everything. But I'm like, can I manifest happiness? And
Hmm.
in the program, there was a hypnosis audio. And I remember getting hypnotized before for like sales
Hmm.
and for, like dealing with the breakup. And it actually worked. With hypnosis, it's like after you get it done, you just are. It's not something that you have to be like, okay, and so this is what I'm gonna do today. And it's so natural that you forget that your state before until you look back. And so it's so interesting. And so I was like, wow, I really do handle relationships a lot better and I'm really good at sales. So maybe this can help me with happiness. And it really did because I did it one of the money blocks I had and what kept me continuously like on the hunt for more money was because I thought that was like what my value was based on,
Right.
the amount of money and things I had. And
Wonder where you got that idea.
I know it's wild.
Oh man.
And it's funny. Like we went back in time in the hypnosis and then I was able to actually find out when when that idea got in my head. It was
Oh
literally
well.
at the lunch table. And
Interesting.
my friends were talking about a girl who didn't have like a designer lunchbox and had food from home. And they were like,
Hmm.
oh, it's probably like store brand peanut butter. And
Hmm.
and I remember thinking, oh my God, I need to make sure that my mom bought Jif. Like she didn't buy store brand peanut butter. And I
Right.
remember like, it being a thing on the way home in the car, like, what type of peanut butter do we have? And she's like, I don't, little girl, what? Do you buy it? but,
Right. Right. Right.
but I was like running to the fridge and checking to make sure that it was Jif, not store
Right.
brand.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been at this for a little bit. You always have Jif peanut butter now, or you've gone back to store brand,
Yeah,
or you just don't eat peanut butter.
I've gone to store brand, Trader Joe's brand.
Nice, nice. Well done. Oh man. So yeah, that's interesting. I always really relate to someone who's had that journey of, the default world and even success in the default world, and particularly default in sales. Success in sales in the default world, because, that was pretty much my exact same journey as well. And then you stepped into the more, spiritual centric, exploring beyond the box. And I'm curious, as you've explored hypnosis, we talked about just briefly before we started recording, sort of what has your experience as far as, hypnotherapy and, specifically tying. Obviously, it's very useful for all kinds of things. It can help you to quit smoking. It can help you with sales, like you said. It can help you. Where I find the most interesting is, all the ways it's really helping people to facilitate a spiritual awakening, and even like a lot of the past life regression stuff. So I'm curious how that piece has unfolded for you.
Yeah, it was definitely some, especially like the timing of when I was certified in learning hypnosis. It was like I was preparing for this time in our history. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic, it was like shortly right before lockdown happened, I was launching a program,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like it people are like, "Yes, we need this now." It's like I was like, "I will be opening doors next week." They're like, "No, open it now. Open doors." I was like, "Oh, okay, sure. Come, you can work with me now." It was really to ease the mind. Was
Mm,
what I was offering, and a lot of people didn't, because we're able to kind of, we have the mental unease, but we're able to distract ourselves. But now it was like we're forced to face it,
sure.
and a lot of titles that people were holding on to as their identities fell away as jobs were lost and the need to
Right.
do certain things were gone, and a lot of people were focusing on their why, and their why disappeared. Like
Mm-hmm.
the purpose of doing something disappeared because their why was linked to doing rather than being. So all of
Mm,
these things fell away, and people were like, what do I fill myself up with? And it's like, the thing is, you're already full. You're
right.
filled up. You just need to actually look in the container. Um, and so that's what we've been doing. And with hypnosis, it kind of creates this room where you can go into the room with your box of you, sit down in a comfy chair, and open the box and take your time to sort through things, review things, what you want to keep, what you don't want to keep, versus like you being like shuffled around with your box and you don't if you know what's in it, and you're like trying to figure out, you're trying to hold the box up as you're walking. So hypnosis gives you like a safe, calm space to be able to do that, unpack and sort and keep what you want to keep and release what you don't want to keep.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I definitely like that. Your box of you that you can just sort of, I imagined, I got a vision of someone, going through an old attic or something and just like, oh, what's in this box? And taking your time, exploring it and examining it, and, things long forgotten and oftentimes. And of course, a lot of the issues is tied to subconscious beliefs that were given to us right when we were very very young, and as you even talked to you already mentioned. So what's what I think challenging for a lot of people, and I'm sure you'd agree, is like oftentimes these things are way deep down and they're not even aware that they're there, right?
Hmm. 100%. Like I didn't realize what my actual issue with money or relationship with money was until I took this journey to, you know, through my subconscious timeline to see that moment. And people, and it's interesting because that's one of the first things that I like to do with clients is get them used to their subconscious timeline, because time is really a concept. It goes by faster for some people, slower for others. So it really shows you how it is in our minds. And
Right.
so giving them this trip, and then them understanding that they do have this capability to go back to the past to really examine what things meant to them and what memories and situations truly meant to them that they thought affected them a certain way, and they could kind of release that power that that situation and that memory has over them. Because it's like, if you woke up yesterday, if you woke up yesterday, if you woke up tomorrow with like out of coma with amnesia, and people came to you and just gave you a book of your best traits and all the your accomplishments and all the awesome things that happened to you, you would be like, wow, my life is pretty dope. Like I am
Mm-hmm.
really nice. I've always, people count on me, blah blah blah. Versus if someone came to you after you woke up from the coma with amnesia, and a book of your worst traits and all the bad things that happened to you, then you'd be
Right.
like, wow, can I go? Can I actually go back to sleep?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna go back into coma too. So that's what doing this timeline therapy actually does for you. It gives you that power to really look at everything and sort it through.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people have never even taken the time to, like you said, I think that's one of the great gifts from the COVID chrysalis, as I like to call it, is giving us the time to slow down, stop, and, really be with ourselves, and forced a lot of people to, you know, look at themselves and not just constantly chase the distractions, right?
Yes, exactly. And that is one of the biggest concerns that a lot of my clients have. It's like, I'm not sure I want to know, or I'm not sure what's up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you have, I think a lot of people, this is something I saw when I was checking out your website. You talked about people, a lot of people are addicted to failure. Once you stop and really look at it, they're so used to it, they expect it, right?
Mhm.
That's, that's something that is so common. I've seen it so often. And, what are you, aside from obviously going through a session, what are some things that you would recommend for people who are telling that tale of failure?
Yeah. So one thing that I like to do when you have something that seems to have power over you, make you power or fear it, change the meaning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What what is failure actually, you know? What
Yeah.
is true actual failure? Are you running tests? Are you testing the waters? Are you dipping your toe in? Or are you truly failing? Because is it really fail failing actually quitting?
Right.
And the key to success is to just keep going, right? Until you
Yep. It isn't over if you haven't won, is what I like to say.
exactly.
And yeah, I think that's you really touched on my number one um, piece of advice to everyone. I always say on the show is like the only thing I'm really good at is making up good stories about myself. It's like, what is the story you're telling around yourself? Is it a journey of failure and I'm not good enough and I'm not capable? And no, it's like when you can get into the mindset of you only lose when you quit. And, it's like the Chinese proverb, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. That is, and I find especially when we retrain our brain and our perspective to, to be able to transmute any sort of situation and tell a story around it that actually serves us, that's how you begin to, transmute that lump of coal into a diamond. And it's always coming back to what is the story you're telling around a particular scenario, situation, or what have you. And if, you start telling the story about, oh, you know what, the souls that are really incredible, powerful beings are the ones that sign up for the hardest courses. So, my life has been really challenging. Wow, I must be a badass. I tell the story like, just being here, you are a raging success. It makes me think of someone, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dolores Cannon,
Mhm.
who is, going back 50 years, invented QHHT, which is, I think, quantum healing hypnotherapy or something like that. And she invented that whole practice and is sort of like a, OG of using hypnotherapy tied into spiritual realizations and awakening. And I just happened to come across a talk the other day with her and decided to check it out for a few minutes. And, this is exactly the type of stuff that she was talking about is like, look, just the way what she's found from almost 50 years of doing, taking people and regressing people in hypnosis and getting insights from them as to what it's like behind the veil, behind the curtain, on the other side, after they're in, they're in non-physical, right? That it's looked at by all the beings on that side as anyone who comes to this realm who is considered an extreme adventurer, very brave, and very highly respected. To take such a extreme, experience and separate themselves so dramatically from source and step so fully into amnesia and forgetfulness as to their divine, self. And so you start, taking that as just a baseline, hey, just the fact that you're here says that you're a badass. And anything above, anything on top of that is sort of is icing. Any success that you have, anything that you do, just being here is enough, and I think that's a really powerful thing that that I not only happen to believe is true, but certainly, one that once it's weaved into your base level viewpoint, your operating system, if you will, it certainly served me greatly.
Yeah. 100%. I love that because that's one thing I mention to people, because I work with the people that come to me. I'm usually their last um, last option, and they've tried other things, and when they come to me, they're just like, I need to do XYZ to get XYZ. And I ask them why. And it always goes to deserving it or feeling like they're worthy of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you've always been worthy of it. You don't need to do anything else but receive it. And so really, I'm not teaching anyone anything. I'm really just making them remember what they forgot.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly it. You can't, I always say we can't tell anyone anything. I can't tell anyone's. I obviously talk a lot about, spirituality, the ultimate nature of reality on the show to anyone who's within 20 feet of me. It's, my most passionate topic to talk about. And I always say, look, there's nothing I can tell you that your soul doesn't already know. It's a matter of remembering what you've forgotten. We have amnesia to our divine nature. And just like when you're asleep at night and the bear is chasing you through the woods, and then you wake up in a sweat thinking you were about to get eaten by a bear, you remembered, oh, I'm actually laying here in bed and I completely forgot who and what I was. And I believed I was there, and the same thing's happening here. This is a dream God once had, I believe. And once you start to remember, it's the most empowering thing you can do, because now every situation that it comes into your field is, oh, okay, why is this happening for me? What is this showing me about myself? How is this reflecting me back to me? And that's when I believe the expedited growth really begins to unfold. Now, I'd love to talk with you a little bit about something that is, a big part of this growth, I believe. And one, inner child healing, which you kind of touched on a little bit already with your own story, healing the story around money and peanut butter, and and then you've got ancestral healing, right? I believe it's. And I imagine you'd agree that it's passed down, what your ancestors dealt with, struggled with, their shortcomings, their gifts. All of it is sort of encoded in our DNA. And what's interesting is science has actually started to show some of these sorts of things, which, it's really fascinating to think, oh, okay, I'm carrying in my DNA, gifts and wounds both. And I'm here to utilize the gifts and transmute the wounds as much as I possibly can for the future line. I'll be someone's ancestor one day, and to pass along that DNA in the most, powerful way possible. So I'd love to get your take on, ancestral healing and just in general, how it pertains to, hypnotherapy and just in general.
Yeah. Yeah. So, with the inner child healing, a lot of times, my clients will be carrying burdens, emotional burdens, and fears that aren't even theirs. Like,
Right.
yeah, so I have a lot of clients that are Black and brown, and they will say, "Wait, this actually isn't mine. I'm here,
Right.
I'm present at this event, but this isn't me. This isn't I don't recognize this place, but I know this place." And and I asked them if it's like a past life or is it a ancestor, and it's like usually like a great great grandparent. And then you think
Wow.
about the number of people that had to come together to make you,
Yep.
you know, and then you think about why you are in this session right now. This You are here to heal your ancestors and then to heal the people that will follow you, to create this healing effect on this ancestral timeline. And you just being here, I essentially served your purpose why you came, to do this healing for your family and your lineage. And so that always like shakes them, because you never realize how important you are until you kind of take that bird's eye view.
Yeah. Yeah. With those, sessions, do you see a lot of people that sort of go back to past lives or tap into familial, ancestor related blockages? You're saying?
Yeah. So we'll be talking about different emotions or different feelings that are kind of preventing them to move forward or to live their best life as themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so one emotion might be linked to another generation, and then
Mm-hmm.
another emotion might be linked to another life.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And you're able to, so with your process, is that something that you typically go into when you're working with someone? It's like a past life kind of stuff, a typical part, or is that just something that you tap into from time to time?
Yeah, it's something that we just sometimes just tap into, because when we go on your timeline, the questions I ask are, is it before, during, or after your birth?
Mm.
And whatever. And prior, we prep we to see where answers come from, and where to get the answer, and to let
Mm-hmm.
the answer come through, not to consciously try to think about it and say that doesn't make any sense, because your subconscious is sending you these messages and this image. For It doesn't have to make sense, but it makes sense to them, and so this is what you need to release. So by that time, they just let it come through, and
Mm-hmm.
then go on the trip.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun. Any fun stories of past life or ancestral sort of visions and healings that have taken place? Because I always find it really interesting, the stories where someone will have a blockage that no doctor can figure out, or all of a sudden this issue happens with their leg, and then nothing works, and then they go into hypnotherapy, and they realize at this same age in another lifetime this awful thing happened to their leg, and as they sort of relive it and process it and integrate it, then all of a sudden the mysterious pain or problem just vanishes. Have you had any of those sort of experiences?
With anxiety, I had a client that was dealing with a lot of anxiety, and it was um, affecting her immune system. And so she was taking medication, and she was afraid of everything. Like she couldn't fly. She would just get panic attacks. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we did the process, we actually traced it back to not a past life, but um, something that happened with her family.
Mm-hmm.
That fear, like, just went down from generation to generation, and
Mm.
releasing, she just was, like, ready to book a flight to
Wow.
to yeah, to, like, go see her boyfriend. It was like it was like, she hasn't flown in so long, and she just felt this intense fear, and right after a session, she just booked her flight. And then I had another client that actually went to a past life where she was living underwater.
Mm. Interesting. On
Yeah,
it or under, you said?
underwater.
Oh, cool.
And she had just a lot of weight on her shoulders. Like she felt um like 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 everyone was really afraid around her, and she knew something bad was about to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was almost like she was present during like the end of a something, end of a
Mm-hmm.
where everyone just died around
Wow.
her, and the information that she needed to get is like endings are really beginnings.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Death is a birth and birth is a death, I believe. I always say when you came here, you, in a sense, died to where you departed from, right? And when
Mhm.
you leave here, you're born to where we go after. So there are two sides of the same coin always, right?
Yeah.
So I would love to chat with you about something that obviously has been such a big theme, over these last 6 months or so with COVID, and then there's been so much unrest or reset. I feel like transformation happening around racial trauma and racism, and a lot of things coming to light, and it's such a touchy topic, and I'd love to just see what wisdom you have to share around what you think it is really going on there, and where it's all headed.
Yeah. I feel like because people are waking up, and really the racial hierarchies and any hierarchies, those were things that we created in order to have some type of order or system, and
Mm-hmm.
and we, as we our past generations were taught it, they passed it down and passed it down and passed it down. And with millennials, the generation that started to question things and say, why is this like this, um, we continuously kept saying these, asking these questions, and finally now other people are asking the same questions, and now when you ask these questions, you'll be able to, the questions are getting better, and with better questions we'll have better answers. But we are now aware that what has been going on is not working, and for anybody, let alone, it's not just like justice wise, but it's not working for anyone, and everyone's seeing that these rules and these categories and um these boxes are no longer aligned. You know,
Right.
race race has become, it's this, they try to make it biology, they try to make it something that's psychological, they try to make it so many other things, but it's all a construct, because and it's a political construct, and you can ask any one that is multiracial or biracial, um, what, like what it is, and then you can ask anyone that comes from a family that has that's mixed race, like, cousin, or and so you then look at it and you're like, this is this isn't natural, this is political. And once we start to create get rid of those political links and ideals, that's when we'll all have true freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely, one of my favorite things to see is, now of course with DNA testing we can see that we're all, of course some more than others, like mixed diversively. Like in my case, I'm like every European, mutt, but it pretty much is all kind of looks the same, right? So I think it's fascinating though when you see. I mean, I think back to there's I want to say it was like a Jerry Springer or something a long time ago, and this KKK guy was on, and it was like this heated debate, Jerry Springer style, and then they do a DNA test, and he comes back, I don't know, like 10% African or 8% or something. And then the woman on the other side of him that was arguing, the black woman, was so fun. She just like in hysterics, right? And she like holds out his hand. She goes, "What's up, brother?" And like that, gives him a high five. And like, it's just like, and he's just like, so like, "Oh, this isn't right. This isn't right," And I just love that we can see how ridiculous it is now more and more. And yeah, it's gotten, really heated, which I think is part of it coming to the surface, and of course you have extremes on every end of it too, right? People who are just going way too far with, I think one of the most important things with it is to realize and acknowledge, and then like Mother Teresa said, they asked her to march against the war in Vietnam, and she was like, "I'll never do that, but have a march for peace, and I'll be there." I think that's for me, the most important thing that I can see in it all is, the reason they teach race car drivers when they're training, whatever you do, don't look at the wall, is because you hit the wall. And so, before something and against nothing. And once you can start to understand, like, what the greater one toils for their freedom, the greater the sense of freedom that is attained. And so if you can take the story, this very, from one perspective, awful story that's transpired in, many places, our country, other countries, there's been so much of this sort of stuff throughout recorded history, and then put it in the context of, and there's a divine design to it, and, getting to overcome these traumas and these things are where your power lies. And so how do I focus forward instead of, sort of holding on to the trauma? I think that's the most challenging thing for people, from what I can see.
Yeah, because especially on social media, because too we're not taught it in school, so
Mm-hmm.
it's always like later in life you're like, wait, that was all a lie. And it's like that creates a second wave of like betrayal, because all those things that you thought were true weren't true, and then but then those things that you were taught affected your life in such a way you start to mourn, and so you're in
Mm-hmm.
and then you mourn again because you learned the truth. And it's like, if we start to uncover the history, really share the history of our land, um, it's true, do deep shadow work. Like North America needs to do this shadow work. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I say this is because we became the model of
Mm-hmm.
of everything else in the world, and how people divide and conquer, essentially, like that they understand like
Mm-hmm.
the psychology of it. And so if we're able to do the deep shadow work on this soil, on this land, that will bring everything. It's going to look really bad, it's going to be really messy, but then at the end of it, when the dust settles, we will have made it, that's when peace can be obtained, because right now we're trying to get a good night's rest out of nails.
Right. Right.
It's
Right.
like
Right.
a lot of stuff, but it's like that's why you have back pain because you're not taking care of the so it's like really just facing it, um, dealing with it, understanding what you need to learn from it to move forward. Um,
Yeah.
so history doesn't repeat itself. The reason why history repeats itself is because we don't have the accurate accounts. So then we can actually dissect what worked and what didn't work and why we're here today. So once we
Right.
really just show ourselves, like really see what
Yeah.
happened, then and then understand that where we are now, because we tend to because we since we carry on, that's why ancestral healing is really important for all races, because we are carrying on the past ideals and past emotions and the past fear, guilt, sadness, anger, all of that. We need to release that and start anew, like this new timeline. Essentially, you are now this new timeline. Pull down that curtain and move forward.
Right. 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 Yeah. I fully agree with that. And I, I think we have to be really careful not to allow it to cause us to draw more lines in the sand, too. You know, it's like one of the things that for me in witnessing the whole process is, you know, it's like the idea of cultural appropriation, for example. It's fully 111% agree, like mocking heritage or taking something that's really sacred to someone and then making it like, you know, a bad Halloween costume where you're hammered and making fun of it or something, you know, no good, right? And on the other side of that is like we got to be careful not to start trying to constantly, you know, leading to more segregation, masked as, you know, appreciation, you know, or you know, of course, in this extreme where people are like, oh, you can't do this thing because some other race invented it or whatever. And to me, that's one of the most challenging points that I see, because at the end of the day, it's like the person on Jerry Springer. I mean, it's like we're all mixed up the same things in the end of the day, and we've all contribute to each other's, you know, culture and, you know, I mean, any great thing. I mean, I can look at half the things I probably use on a different daily basis. Like, oh, this happened, was, you know, invented here. This was invented there. This person came up with this. Oh, I'm listening to this music. It's from, you know, tied to this country. It's like we live in a world that is continuing to come together as one, and it's headed in that direction. I mean, I think 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, it'll be like countries, haha, these imaginary lines in the sand we drew, right? And it's so I think that's one of the slippery slopes I've seen is, you know, using this healing opportunity, like you put it so well, you know, like, hey, America needs to do its shadow work, and it's been this model for the rest of the world. Let's not use it to draw new lines and more separation.
Yeah, and the reason why there are lines in separation, where there is this there's this call for action in terms of appropriation, is because we haven't really we kind of all of us, even so, some people can trace their lineage back to other countries, European countries, but
Mm-hmm.
there was a time where it was not cool to be Irish. It was not cool to be
Yeah.
Italian. So
Yep.
everything
That's what
was,
my main lineage is Irish when I had mine done. So, you
yeah,
know.
and they have, and so it's like, but then if you're able to really go back, and then you can trace it back to druids and the ceremonies and the things that they did on that land. And if we all did that, then we would see similarities in a lot of our ceremonies and a lot of, and
Mm-hmm.
unlock the key to what the major key, because you can see similarities in different people's, like, if people took the time. And I think that is how we rise above the conversation of appropriation, these little nuances. Because there was a conversation or argument on Twitter. This a Black American, well, the person assumed that the boy was Black American, and he said tribe, and the person that replied to him was First Nation. She said, "You're appropriating the word tribe," and he was like, "I'm African." And she was like, "Oh well, because but he's like, I'm," and someone came and was like, "He's African," and but then it's like the word tribe is English,
Right.
when we go back to it, it's not even a word that we use to describe ourselves. I went in, I said, for me, my parents are Nigerian. We weren't even, Nigeria wasn't even the name of our country. We're Igbo land. And so
Hmm.
for Igbo people, we never really called ourselves a tribe. It's like we're a
Hmm.
people and in our
Hmm.
language. And then that made everyone in the conversation like, yeah, why are we fighting over this English word that's not even ours? And it's just, so it's just like
Yep.
when
It's
you
a great
stop
example.
and you really go back, for us, if we go back and really examine our roots, and we kind of, everyone went back to their roots, we would see that it really is from the roots of the same trunk.
Yep, that's right. It's just a matter of how far back you go, and yeah, and that was a really great example. I mean, I saw a someone who I really respect and incredible teacher. Has been on the show. Consider this person a friend. Black American, big voice on social media, and I'd seen him posting about it a few months ago and talking about using it as an example. Music. He brought up like Britney Spears or Eminem and said, "Oh, they should be, essentially paying, giving acknowledgement to where the music came from originally." And I thought to myself, it just seems extreme to use that. That's another example. It's like, okay, well, do we go to does everyone who produces then a hip hop track need to go to the Dutch drummer Felix Visser, who invented electronic drums, and always thank him? Or it's like that rabbit hole goes so far. Do we send royalties to the Wright brothers relatives every time we get on a plane? Or it's like, so I think what you just used is a great example, and I think and I also understand, certainly as a white male, I'm the voice least wanted to be heard at this time, and I totally get that, and that it's like, okay, there's trauma and there's things that I can't relate to, I haven't been through. So if someone is maybe what would be perceived from where I'm sitting as an overreaction, that a lot of times the pendulum has to swing far the other way, and you're going to have extreme ends of that. And I think in the end, like you just said, it's gonna sort of balance itself out, and everything's going to find that very sane common ground where we all look back and say, wow, that was a weird time in history when we actually operated from ridiculous separation.
Yeah, because it's like the the what you saw, what he's posting about Eminem and Britney Spears is is how he feels that he is something. If he saw that, that's something that if he saw, he would feel better, and it would make him feel safer, and it would make him feel like we are progressing. Everyone has their different tempos, because like the human experience is not monolith. Even within races, like even as a white man, your experience with another white man is completely different. Me as a black woman, my experience with even a black woman with Nigerian parents, everything is different. And so based
Mm-hmm.
on his life experience and the things that are important to him and the things that he values, music is something that he truly, truly values, and he sees like as an important piece of Black American history. And so if he feels like if they can give something back, then that like basically he feels like something was taken away and he would like it back.
Hmm.
But the truth is that it's always been there. We just didn't know that
Mm.
it wasn't taken away. It's just the idea and this idea that it was taken away, and this film or veil that we've lost something is creating this pain, creating this anger. And so with my work, especially with Black and brown people, is to for them to release what they think that was taken away from us, because it's what happened with America, and when it's basically taking them before the shores, back, back, so they can remember where they truly came from. And so then the importance of certain things that are happening now lose that charge and release that control over them emotionally. Like it did me. Like I had a hold. I was like, why with different hairstyles, you know? That was really, really important to me that they really attributed certain hairstyles to Black women. But it's like
Mm.
now that, and that's still very important to so many people. So I'm not minimizing their experience because I felt it too. But
Hmm.
as I shifted and as I healed, um, I realized that I'm more than a hairstyle. I'm
Mm.
more than a music genre. I'm more than, certain these things that people were attaching to my identity. And once
Hmm.
I realized who I truly was, like those other things that I was kind of attaching my identity to and holding on so strongly, I loosened the grip and I let go. And that helped me really rise and elevate.
Mm. Yeah, wow, that's such a powerful example. It makes me think of, I have trauma around a past business relationship where, a friend tried to sort of steal from me, and in a sense, and I remember them asking me prior to really doing it about a scenario where a partner would try to steal from you. What would you do? And I said, look, I'm so infinitely abundant, I would allow them to just, you know here you can have it. Or he didn't say if they stole or if they tried to like legally make claim to something, of yours that you invented, is really what he was saying in that moment. And I was like, look, I'd allow him to have it because I'm so infinitely abundant. There's so much more, where that came from,
Yeah,
essentially. And
exactly.
that's a really powerful way to start to tap into, as opposed to these very nuanced lines in the sand, um, regarding, well, where did this hair really begin? Where did, and once again, I don't want to minimize either. Like, and I think what you said is really important too. It's like what that person is feeling is very real. And it may very well be, a lot of times that's just sort of the surface level reason for something that goes way deeper and maybe even ancestral, and it's like and past life and all these other layers to the onion that we maybe not even seeing, and then we're seeing what you may view as an overreaction for the surface level thing, when meanwhile there's actually a lot more going on. And I think under the hood, if you will, and even that they maybe realize. And I think that's a really good thing for people on the other end of it who don't, are scratching their head saying, this makes no sense. They're, to really consider. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want to think about it, like, say, a couple, right? There's a couple,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the people cheated on the other partner, and they go to a diner, and they order food, and the person that cheated takes a fry, and so they're ordering food. They're like, do you want fries? Like, no, no, I don't want any fries. I'll just have my salad. And so they order their food, and the fries come, and the person that orders salad goes to take a fry from the other person's plate, they're like, "What the hell? You said you didn't want fries, and now you're taking the fries from my plate." And
It's a
instead of
classic
just
story.
yeah, and it's like, and so everyone that's watching them is like, "Are they really fighting over some french fries? Like, let the person have a fry." But when you think about it, that person is sick of this person lying. They
Mm.
lied about when they were cheating, and now you're lying about saying you didn't want fries, and now you want fries.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a great example. Great example. It's like there's more underneath it than just that surface level thing. And it's kind of like, have you ever heard the quote about spilling coffee? And let me see if I can find it real quick. It basically talks about how what is inside of you is what comes out. If I bump into you and you're holding coffee, what comes out? Coffee.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you're holding anger, if I bump into you, what comes out? Anger. Like,
yeah,
so really,
exactly.
really
Yeah,
powerful to realize.
yeah. So it's like when you so this is really important because there will be a lot more outcry and there will be a lot more vocal and then even too I see division within black people, black activists, there's division as well. So it's like there are going to be a lot of lines and a lot of different opinions, and then everyone's going to scatter, but then they'll realize that they're stronger together, and then then it'll come back together,
Yeah.
and we'll find some
Yeah.
other way to divide. It's like
Right.
yeah, I know that's that sounds terrible, but it's like that I'm like there's so from like for example, my parents are from Nigeria. Everyone is black, but there's still division there based on
Mm,
geography and religion.
interesting.
So
Right.
it's natural for humans to try to find their people or try to divide because they feel like they need to belong to something, even not too big, but big enough where they feel safe. And it's a safety issue. So once we realize that we are safe and that the world is abundant and that's okay, then that's when we reach utopia on planet Earth. And so this whole thing, what's playing out now, is to journey to that. So it's important for you not to expect everything to happen tomorrow, but to see everything unfolding and to see like assign your modes or your evidence that things are getting better. And when you see that, feel good, do your part. Um, Put in versus take out, and then that like when your time here is over, or it's time for you to move on, you did what you could and you did it well.
Yeah. Well said. I found that little meme. I'll read it real quick. It says, "You are holding a cup of coffee when someone comes along and shoves you or shakes your arm, making you spill your coffee everywhere. Why did you spill the coffee? Well, because someone bumped into me, of course. Wrong answer. You spilled the coffee because coffee was in the cup. If tea had been in it, you would have spilled tea. Whatever is inside the cup is what will come out. Therefore, when life comes along and shakes you, which will happen, whatever is inside of you will come out. It's easy to fake it until you get rattled. So we have to ask ourselves, what's in my cup? When life gets tough, what spills over? Joy, gratefulness, peace, and humility? Or anger, bitterness, harsh words, and actions? You choose. Let's work towards filling our cups with gratitude, forgiveness, joy, words of affirmation to yourself and others, kindness, gentleness, and love."
Yeah, I've heard that one. I like that one a
It's
lot.
good. Yeah, it's really good. Well, as we sort of wind down here, one of the things that I always love to ask is if my guest has a story of synchronicity or serendipity or a positive paranormal story. I love story time, particularly these types of stories. Have anything fun to share?
Well, so I Okay, yeah, I do have a story. So it's kind of like a journey, and it has to do with um, hypnotherapy and just like my whole thing. So the person whose
Great.
program that I took, and the hypnosis audio that I listened to that kicked everything off, I ended up I ended up actually being on her show. So it was
Mm.
like, and this was a few months ago, so it was like full circle, and it was so interesting because when I started, I imagined myself like talking to her, and then when she showed up
Mm.
on screen, it was exactly like how I imagined, and I guess like if you are someone that believes in manifestation and visualization, it just you get those goosebumps. You're like, whoa, and it comes
Right.
like deja vu, and you're like, I knew this would happen, but I didn't know it would happen. And that also happened
Mm-hmm.
when I didn't know how I was going to get to LA to do my training, but I just knew I had to get there. And so
Mm-hmm.
I said, I will be on the beach, sinking my feet into the sand, um, as the manifestation, just like living at the end. And I will be at the beach sinking my feet into the sand. And so I went there and I got, everything worked out and I was in class and then we got out earlier. And when my classmates were like, I want to go to the beach, I want to go to Venice Beach to get lunch. And I was like, sure. So we went to get lunch and we're just walking around. She's like, hey, do you want to, let's go in the stand. I was like, okay, sure. And, you know, and so we're walking and then I look down and my feet are sinking into the sand. And I was like, oh my God,
Here it
I'm
is.
here. I, it you know, I'm here. It
Mm-hmm.
happened. Like my toes, everything, the way my toes were into the sand. And it was just like, I'm here.
The same vision.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here in Venice Beach now, so it makes me want to, as after we get off this call, to go sink my feet into the sand as well. That's a good feeling, and yeah, I absolutely love the work that you're doing, and your energy is so peaceful and calm and serene, and I think that's always such an interesting signpost for someone who's really done the work. It brings that sense of calm and so yeah, this has been amazing. I also know that there'll be people who want to connect with you out there as well. What is the best way to do that?
Yeah, so they can definitely find me on Instagram and YouTube. Um, I have all the links and information to answer any questions that may come up. And then I'm actually hosting a week of workshops. I know that if you are in the middle of your spiritual awakening or you're just beginning to awaken, you feel scattered and you feel like you're not sure where to start or where to go or who to listen to. I want to help you. I created this 1 week. It's called Get Your Shift Together. So as you're
So
shifting,
good.
just like shifting into this new perspective, new beginning, we'll be able to spend a week with me, sorting through your box of you. Just like I mentioned in the beginning, just a safe place for you to open your box and sort through it, see what you want to keep, what you want to release. And at the end, I teach you my special method of self hypnosis to help you start to ease any fear or triggers that are coming up as you're shifting and realizing like your purpose and realizing what's going on here. And ordinarily, this would be $111, but for Positive Head listeners, it's going to be $77.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for making something a little special for everyone out there. I know there will be people that want to take advantage of it, and for those of you who do, if you go to positivehead.com/shift, you'll be able to get the $77 deal. And yeah, very, very gracious of you, Juliet.
Thank you. No, I'd love to offer it to your listeners, get them started. I wish I had something like this when I started. So happy to share.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Thank you. I do have one final question, and it is this. In 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to Juliet Obodo?
Life really has no true meaning other than to experience it.
Well said. Heard that one before, and I don't disagree.
Okay, good. This is from a former type A personality, so it's just so wild to me that I'm like, experience it. No true purpose.
That's what we came for, right?
Right?
Might as well do it to the fullest. Juliet, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been amazing. All of you out there listening, thank you for tuning your beautiful brainwaves in. Until next time, journey well. Also, before we sign off, I wanted to remind you about the game with the universe on our website. You can choose the first number that comes to your mind, and it'll pull up that episode number of the podcast. I've been saying this is a great way to co-create synchronicity and magic with your higher self for quite some time. And if you go to positivehead.com/universe, there is a super fun and simple interface to play this game with your higher self. I firmly believe just by setting the intention to play in this way, it opens up the door for magic, and it's a synchronistic way to hone in on nuggets of wisdom out of the huge catalog of episodes that are specifically appropriate for you at this time in your journey to becoming the next greatest and greatest version of yourself. And it also makes for a super fun way to spark the curiosity of friends and family by having them choose a number, so they'll hopefully go and check out their number as well, which I greatly appreciate because it helps us to spread the word about the podcast. Once again, the address is positivehead.com/universe. And as a quick reminder, if you're curious to learn more about Purium superfoods and why I take them almost every day, be sure to also check out positivehead.com/transformation. On this journey of becoming the next greatest and grandest version of ourselves that we have all embarked upon, I cannot stress the importance of managing your physical vibration enough. And quite honestly, Purium has put together the simplest plan I've found to do so. I have my favorite, the appleberry shake, at least 5 times a week. Once again, to learn more about the Purium transformation, go to positivehead.com/transformation. Or if you want to keep it simple and just try out my favorite, the appleberry shake, you can go straight over to ishoppurium.com and be sure to use code positivehead for 25% off. I'll spell that for you. It's ishoppurium.com. And be sure to use your Positive Head 25% coupon code.